and welcome to this session. This is session 5 of Unit 1, Introduction to Public Finance. In this session, we will discuss the economic implication of externalities. By the end of the session, we should be able to define externalities. We should also be able to analyze the economic effects of externalities and explain how the government can intervene to stimulate positive externalities and discourage negative externalities. In our previous unit, we saw that externalities was one of the market inefficiencies. Externalities, as defined by Mankiw, refers to the uncompensated impact of one person's action on the well-being of a bystander. That is to say, how one person's action affects the other party. There are two forms of externalities that exist in the market. We have the positive externality and the negative externality. As the name suggests, positive externality, meaning that whatever action that impacts the other party, the result is desirable. For negative externalities, the actions of the individuals or the business's action have an undesirable effect on a third party. Let's look at the effect of externalities on market efficiency by using this equilibrium diagram to try and explain how externalities, both positive and negative, affect an individual and the market. Okay, so using this diagram, we could see we have the demand curve here and also the supply curve as well. The equilibrium is the intersection between the demand curve and then the supply curve. The demand curve stands for the private value that the consumer derives from the consumption of that particular commodity, and then the supply curve is the cost to the supplier of this commodity. Let's assume there is a positive externality, which we explained in our previous slides to be a situation whereby the actions of one person has a desirable impact on a bystander. So if there is a positive externality, then we assume that the demand curve should increase. That's the benefit that one derives from the use of that particular commodity should increase, causing a bodily shift of the demand curve to the right. When such happens, the benefit to be derived from the consumption of that particular commodity has changed. That's the equilibrium point moves from its original point to this point. But then the benefit that we know or we have assumed to have derived for such commodity is at its original point. Assuming you go to purchase a phone, your intention of purchasing the phone was to use the phone for a phone call and maybe for text messages. But then we all know that these mobile phones have other functionalities, such as you could download apps to play video games, to do makeup tutorials, and also to watch videos. But then these costs are not factored in the original cost of the mobile phone. So the benefit that we derive from the use of these extra apps is what we deem as the positive externality. So the situation whereby there is a positive externality, we assume that the benefit that we derive for that particular commodity is understated. At this point, the benefit is at this point, but then we still assume that the benefit that we got from the use of this particular commodity is at its original point. That's the initial equilibrium, forgetting that we will be using this particular mobile phone for other functions which wasn't originally stated as part of the benefit of the mobile phone. Now let's consider a situation where there is a negative externality. Assuming a soap manufacturing company. Whenever they produce soaps, they kind of emit or pollute our environment. These are extra costs that has impact on our lives in terms of health issues and also some environmental issues. So these ones are extra costs to the supplier, since the supplier is going to incur other costs in terms of paying to the environmental protection agencies and other regulatory entities. So this will cause the supply cost to increase to this point. Now this is the new supply that we have, but then the issue is that we have assumed benefit that we are deriving from the soap at the original equilibrium point. The increase in the supply, now we are going to assume we are not going to consider this particular increase in supply. Therefore, under overestimating the benefit that we derive from the use of this particular soap, because we did not factor in the health implication or the problems associated from they producing that soap. Okay, so the diagrams which we drew earlier, these are explanations to this diagram. So we are assuming that the demand curve reflects the value to buyers and the supply curve reflects the cost of the sellers. The equilibrium quantity, which is KO MK, maximizes the total value to buyers minus the total cost of sellers. So we are saying, in the absence of externalities, the market equilibrium is efficient. However, when there is a positive externality, the market will underestimate the benefit associated with the good. As I explained earlier, when there is a positive externality, we've already assumed that the benefit we derive is equal to the cost that we paid for that particular commodity. So any extra benefit we derive, we do not account for it, therefore underestimating the benefit that we derive. Similarly, when there's a negative externality, the market is inefficient in the sense that the market tends to overestimate the benefit associated with the goods. Remember, the soap manufacturing company, when you went to buy the soap, you did not account for the health implication that soap has on other people in terms of they polluting the environment when producing such soaps. Now let's look at how government can intervene when there is externality. For negative externality, the government can, for negative externality that produces damage to the society, the government can impose on each of them the approximate cost of the externality in an amount equal to the marginal damage at the efficient output level. So the government can impose on these producers of such goods that has negative externality some amount which will be equal to the damage that they are causing in the environment. For positive externalities, we are saying the government can give subsidies to the producers whose action results in the desirable impact on the society. The government can also institute pollution levies on a firm that pollutes the environment to the tune of the social cost of pollution. So this brings us to the end of session 5. We have looked at what externalities are and then the impact of both positive and negative externalities on the economy, and how the government can intervene to solve the problem of negative externalities and encourage positive externalities. Spend some few minutes to recap on what we have discussed so far in this session.